Breaking overnight, Egypt striking ISIS targets in Libya after the murders of more than a dozen Egyptian Christians in a new ISIS propaganda video. The men kidnapped in Libya are seen crying, and they're seen crying out to Jesus as they are beheaded one by one. The video is drawing strong international reaction. Let's discuss all of this with Peter Beinart. He's a CNN political commentator, contributing editor for Atlantic Media, and a senior fellow for the New America Foundation. And Robert Grenier, he's the author of 88 Days to Kandahar, a CIA diary. He is the former director of the CIA Counterterrorism Center. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Bob, I want to start with you. ISIS slaughters more than a dozen Coptic Christians, beheading them simply for being Christian. Is this some sort of new wave in ISIS's mission statement?
Well, unfortunately, this is nothing new with ISIS. So we saw what they did to non-Muslims in northern Iraq just a number of months ago. Unfortunately, this is very much in line with the pattern of activity that they've established wherever they've had influence anywhere in the Muslim world.
Peter, ISIS likes to claim that the West is at war with Islam, but clearly they are launching a religious war. Is there any other way to see what they've done to these Coptic Christians?
No, not at all. You know, this is a tragedy of historic proportions. You know, the Middle East has historically been an area of tremendous diversity, with large Jewish populations in Arab countries, large Christian populations. And what we're seeing under the influence of ISIS and other jihadi-like groups is that there are very few Christians left in Iraq. ISIS tried to wipe out the Yazidi population, an ancient religion in Iraq, and now they're going after Copts in Libya and elsewhere. And these minority populations are tremendously vulnerable to what is a totalitarian ideology, which has a tendency towards genocide.
Bob, they're wiping out Christians, as Peter just said. They're also wiping out Muslims who don't adhere to their particular extreme brand of dogma. So how can you interpret what ISIS's message is? Is everyone supposed to convert, or are they happy just to annihilate anyone in their way?
Well, you know, they follow a very literal interpretation of Islam going back to its origins, and they interpret Islam according to their own lights. And as far as they are concerned, anyone over whom they have control has a very simple choice to make. They either accept Islam, and particularly their brand of Islam, or that they face death. And that's what we've seen, as Peter mentioned, with the Yazidis in the north. That's what we've seen with various Christian communities, and that's how they justify what they just did to this group of Coptic Christians who, unfortunately for them, were working in Libya.
Peter, Egypt launched airstrikes overnight. Does this change the makeup of the coalition?
It could be the beginning. There were reports that Egypt had launched airstrikes in Libya back last year as well. The key issue in Libya is, can there be a united anti-ISIS front? You know, Libya is split now between two governments. It's completely fragmented. I think what we really need from Egypt and from the United States is to try to unify behind one Libyan force that can then take on ISIS. Because if Libya remains fractured, it's really open season for ISIS to continue to gain ground there, and we see what a horrific prospect that is.
Bob, how significant is it that this beheading video happened in Libya, outside of Syria and Iraq, where we've seen them previously?
Well, you know, what I think we see going on here is essentially a branding exercise. ISIS is clearly in communication with others who have taken on the ISIS name and the ISIS brand, not just in Libya, but elsewhere in the Islamic world as well. But this really isn't so much an idea of ISIS spreading the word, if you will, sending people out, and then somehow recruiting new adherents to the cause. These are established extremists who, for their own local reasons, are assuming the ISIS name, the ISIS brand, in order to give themselves greater credibility, in order to make themselves appear to be part of a much larger and more important whole.